Hello and welcome once again to another episode of What If, starring me, your host, Kyle. Today my co-host is once again the beautiful and brilliant Marie-Claire Gould. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Marie-Claire Gould, the regular host of What the Fiction and What the Force, and I'm back.
I'm glad to have you.
There's no zombies.
Nice of you to be here.
Zombies scare me, so that's...
Yeah. So, let's clear the air right away with the first episode, episode 6, which was last week's episode. We weren't able to cover it.
Well, I wasn't able to cover it because I was actually busy.
Yeah.
And you had some stuff going on too, but...
Yeah, my stuff was largely, I didn't want to talk about that episode.
Oh.
So if you are listening to this and you're like, where did episode 6 go? Because you're listening to a podcast or you caught this like a year or two down the road, thanks for tuning in, future person. But there is no recap or meta-analysis of episode 6. We won't even talk about it any further than that because it's time to delve into an episode I truly loved and really enjoyed, which was...
What if Thor was an only child?
Yes.
Oh, that's why you ran upstairs at the last minute.
No, I'd use the washroom. I've had this in the works since I found out it was a Thor episode.
Okay.
Ha-ha! It's the party prince.
Oh, no.
It's me. Here for the party. It's magic. It never ends.
Yes.
Ugh. So, cheers and welcome to the recap of episode... Yes.
Crash.
Episode 7, What If Thor Was an Only Child, which I personally loved.
I loved it too. It was really, really fun.
So refreshing. Yeah. Just like my Clamato and beer. Which I may be alone in the fascination of that, but nonetheless, I still love it.
You do love your Clamato and beer. I just like regular beer.
I really like this headpiece. We've had it for years.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we bought them because they were like super cheap at Toys R Us one year, and Robin was really, really into Iron Man at the time.
Well, as soon as we bought one, I had to buy them all. So we got all the face thingies for all of the characters.
The face thingies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got Captain America.
I know, but these all look small on you because they're meant for children.
They are meant for children. It's true, but this looks perfect for me. There.
Yeah, less shadow.
I don't know, but it's now got a giant giant skull.
You should have pulled out the blonde wig.
I was considering it, and then I was like, I don't need to go that far. But I mean, I know that this episode especially was like the hair.
The hair.
Absolutely delightful in this. So, general thoughts before we dig into the analysis of the episode itself.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they're kind of pulling on the psychology of sibling dynamics in a reverse way, which is to say that, what happens when you're an only child, as far as he knows, because we know Hela and all of that relationship has yet to be discovered. But, having a brother that is constantly a pain in your side, sometimes literally with Loki, i.e. he has stabbed Thor multiple times. What does that mean for Thor? Well, it made him sort of more responsible in many ways, especially for his younger brother. And we definitely got to see sort of a spoiled, rich party kid in this.
It's hard to have any desire to be mischievous if you are literally sitting next to the god of mischief at all times. Like, you wouldn't be able to differentiate yourself by also being mischievous. And so I would think that our Thor is not as freewheeling, free-loving, and fun and easy and jokey, a practical joker, none of those sorts of things, because he had Loki for a brother. So without Loki for a brother, he definitely seems to be a lot happier, a lot lighthearted.
Yeah.
Which is surprising.
And taking on less responsibility, it also seemed to. But maybe that was just because Odin was in Odin's sleep, right? We don't really know what he was like when he wasn't.
Yep.
Right? So
still, so overall, you quite liked this episode?
I did. It was fun. I laughed multiple times. It was entertaining. There was lots of Easter eggs with who was available in the party and who you could see. We got some awesome Captain Marvel, which I love Captain Marvel, of course. And we got to have a mom-son interaction, which Star Wars has yet to give me. So Marvel is instantly better.
Yeah, that's true. It was a great episode.
Am I bitter?
And it was so happy compared to the previous couple of episodes. Like the previous bunch of episodes.
Yes.
Been really heavy and full of darkness, and
it did have a
things
dark
are not
end.
as good. And I mean, it had a cliffhanger. We can talk about that. But yes, Thor, spelled Troh, not in that order.
Yeah.
So let's dig into it with the beginning of our PowerPoint. And I'll talk once again about the commonalities between this episode and the MCU in general.
Yeah.
So we start with Jane and Darcy out in the field. But it's not Jane and it's not Dr. Selig isn't there as well. Selvig is not there as well. So not only is this universe different in the fact that Thor doesn't have a little brother, but Dr. Selvig isn't there in the beginning moments of this arrival as well. So I'm wondering if this was an earlier one or they were just doing an earlier test and this wasn't the same one as we got at the beginning of Thor. But we have our opening shot, which is the one at the very bottom. It's very black and dark, and I'm sorry, you can't really see it too well, but we have our cartoon on the left, our principal on the right, and the cartoon, I think that might be the case with the ones on the bottom, but they're so tiny, the little angle of the little van is exactly the same for both the cartoon and the top one. And then the middle one there is the camera screen of their computer that she's got.
Right, and it's measuring the Einstein-Rosen bridge waves of
wavelengths
physics
and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then the top is when it blows by or shoots down. Initially, it was, as you can see, it's it's Dr. Selvig. I'm trying to get the overlay on PPT. There we go. It's Dr. Selvig and Jane in Thor, but it's Darcy and Jane in this one. Yeah. And they're flipped, but they still pop out at the same time, and the camera angle is still skewed at the jaunty angle. So I think they're trying to tell us this is the arrival of Thor because that's what it was in that one. But in this case here, I think his arrival is happening sooner than it did in Thor itself.
Okay. Interesting.
Anyway, so those were the only commonalities that I was able to find between this and the MCU. I kept looking for like when Odin goes into the Odin sleep, but he doesn't. He just passes out on the floor in front of Loki.
Yeah, because he was delaying it because of how bad things were in the first movie. And so, yeah, it makes sense that it would have been early because he went into Odin's sleep voluntarily and then just went in and laid down and had a nap.
And then I got all excited that Thor was arriving and that was going to be the same sort of arrival that we got from Loki in the Avengers. So I shot up the Avengers and went to go find that moment when Loki arrives and then talks to all of the people. He was like, but none of the lines are the same. None of the symbols or imagery is the same.
They were trying to definitely frame it like a red herring, like a little bit of a misdirect in the beginning to say, yes, he is arriving and he's going to invade Midgard, but no, he's just there for a good time.
Exactly. He shows up and it's right away, I'm here for a good time. And not only that, but they show up in, how do I move this word? There we go. This one. First, where's the Watcher? As I always do at the start of every episode, I talk about where the Watcher is before I jump into the rest of it. And he only appears 2 times this episode. The first is at the very beginning when he's overlaying to us. Mm-hmm. We don't see him talking, but at the very end, as has now been the case, getting more and more consistent, he actually talks to us at the end of this one. Yeah. And then is shocked and surprised. And we'll get to that in a bit. It's interesting to note that this is not a Watcher heavy episode like the Sorcerer Supreme Strange one was.
Yeah.
But I think that because he is shocked and surprised that this one will have genuine relevancy to the story overall, as I think it's being made more and more clear that there's a whole story arc being told over the course of these 9 episodes. And we have begun
the final arc,
the final chapter, the third chapter.
I absolutely agree with you. Like early on in the show, I said it really feels like they're going to pull together a what if Avengers moment by which they're trying to save the multiverse. And then like this is going to like lay the groundwork where people are invading different multiverses and shows how it happens and then how you can save the day, save the multiverse, right?
Absolutely.
And that leads into phase 4, into the heart of phase 4 more with Multiverse of Madness and
other stuff.
Of course, Spider-Man, No Way Home and things like that.
So, what hotel is this? They show us up in Las Vegas. And I pulled up an aerial map of Las Vegas.
And we've been there.
And
you've been there twice.
Ground floor, yes. This is an aerial overview. And it almost looks like the Bellagio. But then there is this windmill in the top corner, sandwiched between the hotel and this pyramid that's there. So I'll point out that the only time the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been to Las Vegas was in Iron Man, at the very beginning of Iron Man, when Tony's getting an award and Obadiah Stane has to accept the award on his behalf, and then he's in the casino gambling, and then he's leaving with Christine Everhart, who has become a rather constant character in...
She's been on the news and asking questions of people, and that was such a good cameo to bring her back too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. So